Vincent Harrington pressed his palm against the floor-to-ceiling window of his Chicago penthouse, watching the city blur beneath him. Not from height, but from the fever that had plagued him for 8 months. His reflection showed a ghost of the man who once commanded boardrooms with a single glance. At 42, he had built Harrington Properties into a billion-dollar empire, yet now he could barely stand through a morning meeting. The doctors had run every test modern medicine offered. Cardiologists found his heart strong. Neurologists declared his brain healthy. Blood specialists saw nothing alarming in his results. Yet Vincent felt himself dying by degrees, his body betraying him in ways no scan could capture. An unlikely suggestion. Mrs. Patricia Chen knocked softly before entering his bedroom suite. For 20 years, she had managed his household with quiet efficiency, but today her expression carried something different. Determination mixed with concern. "Mr. Harrington, I've taken the liberty of contacting someone who might help." Vincent turned from the window, steadying himself against the glass. "Another specialist?" "Patricia, we've exhausted every expert from Boston to Berlin. Not a conventional doctor." Patricia set down a tray with herbal tea instead of his usual black coffee. "Her name is Jade Morrison. She helped my sister when Mayo Clinic sent her home with no answers. 6 weeks later, Rebecca was hiking again." Vincent's jaw tightened. "I'm not interested in alternative medicine charlatans selling false hope. She's a registered nurse with credentials from Johns Hopkins." Patricia's voice held rare firmness. "But she approaches healing differently. She looks at the whole person, not just symptoms." Before Vincent could refuse, another wave of vertigo sent him stumbling toward the bed. Patricia caught his arm, her small frame surprisingly strong. The room spun violently, and for a terrifying moment, Vincent thought he might lose consciousness. "Please, Mr. Harrington," Patricia whispered as the episode passed. "Just meet with her. What do you have to lose?" Vincent looked at his trembling hands. 8 months ago, these hands signed contracts worth millions. Now they could barely hold a pen. Pride warred with desperation. "Fine," he conceded, his voice hoarse. "One meeting. The healer arrives." Jade Morrison arrived precisely at noon. Vincent had expected someone older, perhaps wearing flowing robes and carrying crystals. Instead, a young woman in tailored gray slacks and a simple white blouse entered his study. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and her hazel eyes assessed him with clinical precision. "Mr. Harrington." She extended her hand with confidence. "Thank you for seeing me." Her handshake was firm, warm. Vincent noticed calluses on her palms, suggesting someone who worked with their hands, not just sat in offices theorizing. "Patricia speaks highly of you," Vincent said, gesturing to the leather chairs by his desk. He chose to stand, unwilling to show weakness, though his legs protested. Jade sat but kept her gaze level with his. "Before we begin, should be honest. I can't promise to cure you. But I can promise to look at your situation from angles others have missed." "And what angles would those be?" Vincent heard the skepticism in his own voice. "Tell me about your sleep," Jade said, pulling out a simple notebook instead of a tablet. "Not the medical version. What do you dream about? What wakes you at 3 in the morning?" Vincent blinked. No doctor had asked about his dreams. "I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me." Something in her steady gaze made him answer truthfully. "I dream about my father. He died when I was 12. Sometimes I'm watching him work at his construction site. Other times I'm trying to reach him, but he keeps walking away." Jade wrote quickly. "And the 3 a.m. wakings? My heart races. I feel like I'm suffocating, even though the windows are open." Vincent found himself sitting now, drawn into the conversation despite himself. "It's always the same time." 3:17, specifically. "What happened at 3:17? Jade asked softly. Vincent's throat tightened. That's when the hospital called. The day my father's accident happened. For the next hour, Jade asked questions no medical professional had considered. Not about his diet or exercise, but about his relationships, his fears, his unspoken grief. She examined him, but her touch was different. She pressed points on his wrists and neck, behind his ears, along his spine. Her fingers seemed to find knots of tension he didn't know existed. "Your body is speaking," Jade finally said, closing her notebook. "It's been trying to tell you something for years, but the message got louder after your engagement ended." Vincent stiffened. "Cassandra has nothing to do with this." "Maybe not directly. But her leaving 6 months before your symptoms started suggests a pattern. Loss, abandonment, the fear of not being enough. These emotional wounds manifest physically when we refuse to address them." "So you think I'm imagining my illness?" Vincent's voice turned cold. "Not at all. Your pain is absolutely real. But it's not coming from your organs. It's coming from unhealed trauma that your body is forcing you to finally acknowledge." Vincent stood abruptly, then swayed as dizziness struck. Jade moved faster than he expected, catching him before he fell. Her arms were strong, and she guided him back to the chair with practiced ease. "Breathe with me," she instructed, her hand on his chest. "4 counts in, hold for 7, 8 counts out." Vincent followed her rhythm, and slowly the room stopped spinning. When his vision cleared, Jade was kneeling beside his chair, her face close to his. He saw compassion there, but also something fierce. A determination that matched his own business instincts. "I can help you," Jade said quietly. "But it requires complete commitment. Not 2 sessions a week. Intensive, round-the-clock care for at least 3 weeks. You want to move in?" Vincent asked, surprised. "I want to create an environment where healing can happen. Where we can address the crisis moments as they occur, not hours later in an office." Jade stood, smoothing her slacks. "But I understand if that's too unconventional." Vincent should have refused. The idea was absurd. Yet something about Jade's presence had already shifted something in him. For the first time in months, he felt a spark of hope. "My security is strict about overnight guests," he said slowly. "They'll need a cover story that makes sense." Jade considered this. "What if we tell them I'm your private nurse? Hired for live-in care during your recovery?" "That would work." Vincent met her eyes. 3 weeks. If I'm not significantly better by then, you agree this approach doesn't work. Deal. Jade extended her hand again. When their fingers met, Vincent felt something electric pass between them. Not just hope, but recognition. As if his body knew, even before his mind accepted it, that this woman would change everything. Neither of them realized in that moment how true that would prove to be. Jade arrived at Vincent's penthouse the next morning with 2 suitcases and a determination that impressed even Patricia. The longtime assistant had prepared the guest suite adjacent to the master bedroom, but Jade shook her head after inspecting it. Too far away. If Mr. Harrington has a crisis at night, I need to be there immediately. She turned to Patricia with apologetic firmness. Is there a sitting room connected to his bedroom? Patricia hesitated, then nodded. There's a space he used as a home office. It has a sofa. Perfect. I'll need bedding for that. Within hours, Jade had transformed not just her temporary quarters but Vincent's entire living space. She opened curtains that had been closed for months, allowing autumn sunlight to flood the rooms. She brought in plants, filling empty corners with greenery. The heavy silence that had dominated the penthouse gave way to soft music, instrumental pieces with rhythms that seemed to ease Vincent's constant tension. Vincent watched these changes from his bedroom doorway, leaning against the frame for support. You're quite bold for someone I just hired. You didn't hire me to maintain your comfort, Jade replied, arranging small bottles of essential oils on a table. You hired me to help you heal. Sometimes that means disrupting familiar patterns. She turned to face him fully. Speaking of which, when was the last time you left this penthouse? Vincent's silence was answer enough. Tomorrow, we're going outside. Even if it's just to the rooftop garden. I can barely walk to the kitchen, Vincent protested. Then we'll take it slow. But staying confined in these rooms is feeding your illness, not fighting it. Jade approached him, and he caught the scent of lavender and something earthier, perhaps sage. Your body needs sunlight, fresh air, movement. We start small, but we start. The first week tested both of them. Jade woke Vincent at dawn, despite his protests, guiding him through gentle stretches that left him trembling with effort. She prepared meals focused on anti-inflammatory foods, ignoring his requests for the rich dishes he was accustomed to. Most challenging were the evening sessions where she asked him to simply talk about his feelings. I don't do therapy, Vincent said on the fourth night, arms crossed defensively. They sat in his bedroom, now transformed with soft lighting and the scent of chamomile. Jade had positioned two comfortable chairs facing each other, creating an intimate space that felt both safe and uncomfortably vulnerable. This isn't therapy. It's conversation. Jade's voice remained patient. Tell me about your father. You mentioned he was a construction worker. He built things with his hands. Real, solid things you could see and touch. Vincent's jaw tightened. He wanted me to join the family business. Small-scale residential projects in the suburbs. But you had bigger dreams. I wanted to build empires, not houses. Vincent's voice carried old defensiveness. He called it greed. Said I was forgetting where I came from. When did he die? The question, though expected, still hit hard. A month after our biggest argument. I had just gotten accepted to Harvard Business School. He said I was choosing money over family. Vincent's hands clenched. I told him he was just jealous because he never had the courage to dream bigger. And then he was gone. Vincent nodded, unable to speak past the tightness in his throat. Jade leaned forward. Vincent, your body started failing when Cassandra left. But Cassandra wasn't the first person who abandoned you. Your father died thinking you valued success over him. That guilt has been eating at you for 30 years. He died in an accident. I didn't cause that. But Vincent's voice lacked conviction. No, you didn't. But you never forgave yourself for those last words. And when Cassandra left, saying you loved your work more than her, it reopened that wound. Jade's eyes held his with gentle intensity. Your body is trying to force you to finally feel what you've been running from. The grief. The guilt. The fear that your drive for success costs you everyone you love. Vincent stood abruptly, pacing to the window. His reflection showed a man diminished, and for the first time, he wondered if that diminishment was somehow self-inflicted. A punishment he'd been unconsciously imposing. I don't know how to fix it, he whispered. You start by being honest. With yourself first, then with others. Jade joined him at the window. Your father loved you, Vincent. The argument doesn't erase 20 years of love. And his death doesn't mean you were wrong to pursue your dreams. Something cracked inside Vincent's chest. Not physically, but emotionally. 30 years of carefully constructed walls began to crumble, and with them came tears he hadn't allowed himself to shed since he was 12 years old. Jade didn't speak, didn't try to comfort him with empty words. She simply stood beside him, her presence steady and warm, letting him finally grieve. Unexpected complications. By the second week, Vincent's physical symptoms had noticeably improved. He could walk to the rooftop garden without becoming winded. His fevers had ceased. The racing heart episodes grew less frequent. But something else was developing, something neither of them had anticipated. Vincent found himself watching Jade. Not as a patient observing his nurse, but as a man becoming aware of a woman. The way she moved with quiet grace. How her laugh, rare but genuine, transformed her serious face. The compassion in her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. One evening, as she helped him through a particularly difficult breathing exercise, their faces were inches apart. Vincent felt his heart race, but this time not from illness. Jade's eyes widened slightly, and he knew she felt it too. This magnetic pull that had nothing to do with healing and everything to do with connection. "We should stop," Jade said softly, but didn't move away. "Probably," Vincent agreed, also remaining still. The moment stretched, charged with possibility. Then Jade's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. She stepped back, checking the message with professional composure, but Vincent noticed the slight tremor in her hands. "Patricia says you have a visitor. Cassandra is downstairs." Vincent's improved mood evaporated. "Tell her I'm not well enough for visitors. She told security it's urgent. Something about business documents you need to sign." Jade's expression was carefully neutral. "Should I send her away?" Vincent wanted to say yes. Seeing Cassandra would undo weeks of progress. But curiosity won. What could she possibly want after leaving him 8 months ago? Let her come up. "But you stay. Please." Cassandra Reynolds entered the penthouse like she still owned it. Tall, blonde, impeccably dressed in a designer suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her blue eyes swept over the transformed space with barely concealed disdain before landing on Jade. "And who is this?" Cassandra's tone could cut glass. "Jade Morrison. Vincent's nurse." Jade extended her hand, which Cassandra ignored. "How cozy. You've already replaced me with the help." Cassandra turned to Vincent. "You look better. I heard you were dying." "Reports of my demise were exaggerated," Vincent said dryly. "What do you want, Cassandra?" She pulled papers from her bag. "The prenuptial agreement. My lawyer says you never formally dissolved it, which means I'm still entitled to certain assets if you die within the first year of our separation." The sheer audacity left Vincent momentarily speechless. This was why she'd come? To ensure she'd profit from his death? "Get out." His voice was quiet but lethal. "Vincent, be reasonable. We were together for 4 years. Surely that entitles me to something. You left me when I needed you most. You're entitled to nothing." Vincent moved closer to Cassandra, his restored strength evident. "And if you ever come to my home uninvited again, I'll have security ban you from the building." Cassandra's composure cracked. "You've changed. You're not the man I knew." "No," Vincent agreed. "I'm becoming someone better. Now leave." After Cassandra departed, Vincent sank onto the sofa, emotionally exhausted. Jade sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "That was the woman you were going to marry?" she asked gently. "I thought I loved her. Now I realize I loved the idea of her. The perfect partner for a successful man. We looked good together at charity events." Vincent laughed bitterly. "But she never actually knew me. Never wanted to know the parts one kept hidden." "And now?" Jade asked. Vincent turned to her, seeing understanding in her eyes. "Now I'm learning that real connection requires vulnerability. That strength isn't about never falling apart, it's about having someone who stays when you do." Their eyes met, and this time neither looked away. The air between them hummed with unspoken feelings. Jade's hand found his, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Vincent," she said softly. "We need to be careful. The relationship between healer and patient can create false intimacy. This doesn't feel false." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "Does it feel false to you?" Jade's breath caught. "No. But that doesn't mean it's wise. I've spent my whole life being wise, being careful, building walls to protect myself. Vincent lifted her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. Maybe it's time I took a risk on something real. Before Jade could respond, his phone rang. Patricia's name flashed on the screen. Vincent answered, and his assistant's urgent voice filled the line. "Mr. Harrington, there's a problem. The board called an emergency meeting. They're questioning your fitness to lead the company. Some members are pushing for your removal." Vincent's grip tightened on the phone. His empire, everything he'd built, was under threat. The old Vincent would have rushed to the office, would have fought with every weapon at his disposal, but as he looked at Jade, he realized something had fundamentally shifted. The company mattered, but it wasn't everything anymore. "Tell them I'll address their concerns next week. Right now, my health comes first." After hanging up, Vincent found Jade watching him with something like pride in her eyes. "That must have been difficult," she said. "Actually, it was surprisingly easy." Vincent pulled her closer. "I'm finally learning what truly matters." The next morning would bring new challenges, but for now, they sat together in comfortable silence, two people who had started as healer and patient and were becoming something far more profound. 3 weeks had passed since Jade moved into Vincent's penthouse, and the transformation was undeniable. Vincent now took morning walks through the neighborhood, his stride confident and strong. The mysterious symptoms that had baffled a dozen specialists had vanished completely. But something more profound had shifted. The hardened businessman who once measured success only in quarterly profits now spent afternoons volunteering at a community center, teaching underprivileged kids about financial literacy. Jade stood on the rooftop garden, watching the sunset paint Chicago's skyline in shades of amber and rose. She had achieved what she came to do. Vincent was healed, perhaps more completely than even she had imagined possible. Which meant her time here was ending. The elevator chimed, and Vincent emerged carrying 2 cups of tea. He'd learned her favorite blend, chamomile with honey and lemon, and prepared it without being asked. These small gestures of care had become routine between them, blurring the lines they'd tried so carefully to maintain. "Patricia told me you got a call today," Vincent said, handing her the cup. "From Seattle General Hospital." Jade accepted the tea, wrapping her hands around its warmth despite the mild evening. "They're opening a new integrative medicine wing. They want me to lead the program. It's an incredible opportunity. When do they need your answer?" "By the end of the week." Jade finally met his eyes. "Vincent, you're well now." "Completely well. My work here is finished." "Is it?" Vincent moved closer, the city lights reflecting in his dark eyes. "Because it feels like something important is just beginning." Jade's heart raced, but she forced herself to step back. "We've been living in a bubble. You're grateful because I helped you heal, and I've grown attached because I've seen you at your most vulnerable. But that's not the same as real love. Don't tell me what I feel." Vincent's voice held the commanding edge she remembered from their first meeting, but now it carried emotional depth rather than mere authority. "I'm 42 years old, Jade. I've built companies, closed billion-dollar deals, and yes, I thought I was in love before. But what I feel for you is different. It's not gratitude. It's not dependence. It's recognition." "Recognition of what?" "Of the person I want to become. The person I can be when I'm with you." Vincent set down his cup and took her hands. "You saw past the wealth and the power. You saw a broken man and didn't run. You demanded I face my demons, and you stood beside me when I finally did. That's not just healing, Jade. That's love." Tears blurred Jade's vision. "I'm terrified. Everything I've been taught says this crosses professional boundaries. That whatever we feel might not be real because of the circumstances. Then let's find out. Stay, not as my nurse, but as yourself. Give us a real chance, in the real world, without roles or boundaries." Vincent cupped her face gently. I'm not asking you to give up Seattle. I'm asking you to give us time to see if what we have survives outside this bubble. Before Jade could answer, Vincent's phone erupted with calls. Patricia's name, then board members, then his lawyer. Something major was happening. I should take these, Vincent said reluctantly. Go. We'll talk later. Jade watched him stride toward the elevator, phone pressed to his ear, and wondered if she was being offered everything she'd ever wanted or walking into heartbreak. The emergency board meeting convened at 8 the next morning. Vincent entered the Harrington Properties conference room to find half his board aligned against him. Led by Gerald Thornton, his former mentor and largest shareholder, they had prepared a case for his removal. Gentlemen, ladies, Vincent took his seat at the head of the table with calm authority. I understand you have concerns. Gerald stood, his silver hair and expensive suit projecting gravitas. Vincent, we've watched you struggle these past months. Your illness, your absence from daily operations, your recent erratic behavior. The company needs steady leadership. Erratic behavior? Vincent kept his tone level. Please elaborate. You've declined 3 major development projects. You've donated company resources to charity programs without board approval. You've been seen volunteering at community centers instead of attending crucial meetings. Gerald's voice carried rehearsed sympathy. We think you need more time to recover. Step down temporarily, let us manage things, and return when you're truly yourself again. Vincent looked around the table, seeing calculation in some faces, genuine concern in others. A month ago, this challenge would have sent him into crisis mode. He would have fought with aggression, reminded them of his track record, wielded power like a weapon. Instead, he smiled. You're right, Gerald. I'm not the same man I was a year ago. But I'm not erratic. I'm finally clear about what matters. Vincent stood, commanding attention without raising his voice. This company was built on my father's principles, even though I spent years denying it. He believed buildings should serve communities, not just generate profit. I lost sight of that in my drive to build an empire. That's exactly our point, Gerald interrupted. You're becoming sentimental instead of strategic. I'm becoming balanced. And that balance is making us stronger. Vincent pulled up a presentation on the screen. In the 3 weeks since I returned to active oversight, we've seen a 15% increase in employee retention. Our community investment projects have generated unprecedented positive press, and we've attracted 3 new clients specifically because of our shifted values. The market has responded positively to every change I've made. The numbers spoke for themselves. Even Gerald's allies shifted uncomfortably. Leadership isn't just about quarterly earnings, Vincent continued. It's about building something that lasts, that matters. My illness taught me that legacy isn't measured in dollars alone. It's measured in lives changed, communities strengthened, and values upheld. If this board believes those principles are erratic, then perhaps we're not aligned anymore. The silence stretched. Finally, Margaret Chen, the board member Vincent respected most, spoke up. I move that we table this discussion. Vincent has proven his capacity to lead, perhaps more effectively than before his illness. Let's give his new approach time to show results. The vote was closer than Vincent would have liked, but he retained his position. As board members filed out, some supportive, others resentful, Gerald approached him. You've changed, Vincent. I'm not sure it's for the better. That's because you trained me to value profit over people. I'm grateful for what you taught me, Gerald, but I'm choosing a different path now. Vincent extended his hand. You can join me on that path, or you can leave the board. But I won't go back to being the man I was. Gerald stared at the offered hand, then turned and walked away. Vincent watched him go without regret. Some bridges needed to burn. The truth revealed. Jade was packing when Vincent returned to the penthouse that evening. Her suitcases lay open on the bed in her temporary room, clothes folded neatly inside. Vincent's heart lurched at the sight. You're leaving. It wasn't a question. I called Seattle. I accepted their offer. Jade didn't look at him, focusing intently on folding a sweater. You're healed, Vincent. You don't need me anymore. I do need you. Just not as my nurse. Vincent entered the room, gently turning her to face him. I love you, Jade. Not because you healed me, but because of who you are. Your strength, your compassion, your refusal to accept anything less than truth. You make me want to be better, not from obligation but from inspiration. Vincent, please don't make this harder. Then tell me you don't feel the same. Look me in the eye and tell me this is only professional for you, and I'll let you go. Jade's composure finally cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I can't tell you that because it would be a lie. I love you too, and it terrifies me. Vincent pulled her close, holding her as she trembled. Why does it terrify you? Because of why I became a healer. Jade's words came muffled against his chest. My fiancé died 5 years ago. Cancer. I was finishing nursing school, and I watched him waste away despite everything modern medicine offered. I felt so helpless. So I dedicated myself to learning every alternative approach, every holistic method, anything that might help people conventional doctors couldn't save. She pulled back to meet Vincent's eyes. I've spent 5 years healing others, but I never healed myself. I buried myself in work, told myself that saving others was enough. Then I met you, and you forced me to acknowledge what I've been running from. My own grief, my own fear of losing someone again. Vincent wiped her tears with his thumbs. I can't promise I'll never die, Jade. None of us can. But I can promise that however much time we have, I want to spend it truly living, not just existing. And I want to spend it with you. What if it's not enough? What if I lose you too? Then at least we'll have had something real. Something worth the risk. Vincent pressed his forehead to hers. You taught me that healing requires facing fear, not running from it. Take your own advice. Face this fear with me. Jade laughed through her tears. You're using my own methods against me. Is it working? Instead of answering, Jade kissed him. It was tender and desperate, filled with all the emotion they'd been holding back for weeks. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. I love you, Jade whispered. But I need to do this right. I need to establish my own life here, not just move from being your nurse to being dependent on you in a different way. So take the Seattle position, Vincent said, surprising her. Commute on weekends. We'll make it work while you build something that's yours. Then, when you're ready, we'll figure out our future together. You'd do that? Long distance? Jade, I spent 42 years building walls and pushing people away. I'm not going to lose you because I'm too impatient to let our relationship develop naturally. Vincent smiled. Besides, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? 6 months later. The grand ballroom of the Chicago Hilton glittered with crystal chandeliers and elegant guests. Vincent stood at the podium, addressing the crowd gathered for the inaugural gala of the Harrington Foundation for Integrative Healthcare. The foundation, funded by a portion of his personal wealth, aimed to make holistic healing accessible to underserved communities. When I was at my lowest point, Vincent said, his voice carrying clearly through the sound system, conventional medicine had given up on me. I was told my symptoms were untreatable, perhaps even imaginary. Then someone saw past the symptoms to the underlying cause. She taught me that healing isn't just physical, it's emotional and spiritual. That lesson changed my life, and I want to extend that opportunity to others. He gestured to the screen behind him, showing images of the foundation's first clinic, scheduled to open next month. This foundation represents a new chapter, not just for me, but for how we think about healthcare. It's about treating the whole person, not just the disease. As applause filled the room, Vincent's eyes found Jade at a front table. She'd flown in from Seattle for the event, and the sight of her still made his heart race. 6 months of weekend visits and daily video calls had only deepened their connection. They'd navigated the complexities of building a relationship across distance, learning each other without the intensity of their initial circumstances. After the speeches, they slipped away to the hotel's rooftop terrace, seeking a moment of privacy amid the celebration. "I'm proud of you," Jade said, leaning against the railing beside him. "The foundation is going to help so many people. I couldn't have done it without you. Your insights shaped everything." Vincent turned to face her fully. "Actually, there's something I want to ask you about the foundation." "What's that?" "I need a medical director. Someone who understands both conventional and integrative approaches. Someone with vision and compassion." Vincent pulled a small box from his pocket, and Jade's breath caught. "Someone who might be willing to relocate to Chicago permanently." He opened the box, revealing a simple but elegant ring, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds. "Jade Morrison, will you marry me? Will you build this foundation with me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you and learning from you?" Jade's eyes filled with happy tears. "You want me to give up Seattle? I want you to choose what makes you happy. If that's Seattle, I'll move there. If it's Chicago, incredible. If it's somewhere else entirely, we'll figure it out together." Vincent took her hand. "The only thing I'm certain about is that I want to build our future side by side, as partners in every sense." "Yes," Jade said, laughing and crying simultaneously. "Yes to all of it. The foundation, Chicago, marriage, everything. Yes."